Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I wanted to talk about the T-34-85 STP. This is the first vehicle out of the new update I was able to research and also spade, so this is going to be the first of many reviews based on the new vehicles. When it comes to the new update, it came at the same time as the Flapjack event, so I ended up playing a lot of air vehicles and took a little bit of time to get around to ground. But I'm super happy that I was able to play the T-34 first. I decided to research it because it was one of the lower ones, take a little bit less time to do, and therefore should be a little bit easier to get into it. And, well, it was. It turns out the Russian lineups around this BR are really good. There's also a ton of premium T-34s nowadays to use, and made grinding the STP very easy. So, what is the T-34-85 STP? It is straight up just a T-34-85, which has access to a vertical stabilizer and also the round that they gave the T-44, the BR-367. Now, what's interesting about the round is it is just kind of a better version than the standard round that you get. You have the BR-365K, which is your standard round. At rank 1, you have the BR-365. Both of these rounds are very good. One is basically slightly better in terms of explosive mass and also angle pen. And then you have the BR-367, which is just kind of a push towards just being better in pretty much every single way, apart from, once again, the explosive mass. But because of how the HE filler works in these things, 77 grams is easily enough to be able to just nuke anything that you find, and it actually works very well as a round. Now, I was a bit worried about this round because this vehicle, since it gets the vertical stabilizer, is 2 BRs above the standard T-34-85. It's at 6.3, which is pretty high, and I thought, oh, well, it gets a little bit better penetration, but it's still going to struggle, right? Because of the fact that you're going to go up against a lot of heavies, you know, T-34s, T-26-E5s, and then also things like Tiger 2s, for example, which are going to be really strong. And to be honest, yeah, when we ran into those, it was a little bit of an issue. We had to flank, we had to do different stuff, we had to try different tactics, but most of the enemies that we actually fought were light tanks that people were using. So there was a lot of Hellcats that were running around the place, a lot of Bulldogs, and also a lot of like just medium tanks that were turning up, like Panthers, for example, and even stuff like Tiger 1s. So this round actually worked fantastic against them, and it made me feel like this vehicle is probably the best medium tank at this BR. Because the T-34-85, it's one of those that a lot of people don't really chat about, but it's a solid vehicle. The vehicle has everything you would want. It has good mobility, it has silly armor. Even after the updated model, it still sometimes can shrug off random rounds for no apparent reason. And also, at the same time, the explosive filler on the ammo means if you penetrate anywhere on a vehicle, you are just going to nuke it. One of the biggest problems with the T-34-85 was the stability of the gun, because the suspension on the T-34-85 is a little bit wobbly, and therefore getting the gun on target all the time was not always the easiest. And now, with the STP, that problem is completely solved. So basically you don't have a problem. The only issue is if you can't penetrate a target, and that is where it kind of can fall apart. But I had a fantastic time in this thing. When it was stock, its only issue, because it still had the BR-365K, which I didn't decide to research the BR-365 modification. Instead, I just went past it to go straight for the 367. I understand that there are people who prefer the 365 to the 365K. For me, I just wanted to do the 367. I felt like I needed that additional flat penetration to be able to deal with some of the heavier targets. But the main issue when stock was actually its mobility, because when you have a medium tank like the T-34, you need its mobility to move around the place. And I felt, especially without the track modification, this thing felt very sluggish going about the place. But once you got the transmission, once you got the engine, once you got the tracks, it was once again just moving around as it usually does. And also, at the same time, with that vertical stabilizer, it was very, very tough to miss any of the shots that were around the place. And I think that really helped out the vehicle. It also helps that I've played a million of these things, so the actual kind of The muzzle velocity of the gun and also the optics was quite easy to get a hold of. They're pretty bog standard in terms of how they're set up. There are a few vehicles of this BR which can be a little bit dodgy in terms of that. The STA-1 and the STA-2 come to mind as vehicles which you can struggle with in terms of actually getting shots off and being able to do damage. But this one just doesn't have that issue. The optics match really well up with the gun and generally feel quite nice. The only thing I'd say this vehicle is missing is a top-mounted machine gun, like a Dishka or something like that, because I will say one of the things that did happen a few times while playing is I did end up getting myself clattered by CAS. CAS is very aggressive at these BRs, especially the American CAS. You have Bearcats flying around, you have, Corsairs flying around, you have Mustangs flying around, you have P-47s flying around. Pretty much in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the battle, you are going to see CAS elements. And that's because everybody's running around in their Hellcats, capping points, and then getting straight into a plane. So you have to be careful of that, but if you are lucky and you're able to touch that, then you can have a great time. The other thing to also mention about this BR for Russia, my god does it have a good lineup. I completely forgot how stacked 6.3 is for Russia, because usually we focus on 6.7 with stuff like the T-44, the IS-2 1944. But let me just read out to you this 6.3 lineup if you run it as a full lineup, okay? T-34-85 STP, IS-2, ASU-85, the 2S3M, SU-100P, M53-59, T-44-FM, T-44-122 as well, T-34-100. So those 3 premiums right there. And then on top of that, you have the TU2s that you can bring along, and also the Yak-9 UT. And you know how a lot of people have been complaining about the Yak-9K and how good it's been when it comes to its BRs at 5.0 with its 45mm. Well, guess what? The Yak-9 UT also has the NS-45, and it also has a boosted engine, and gets that really annoying APHE round, which everybody's been annoyed about with the Yak-9K. So you can bring along the Yak-9 UT at this BR too, which is just wild to think about. It's very, very powerful, and it actually carried a few games while we were playing the BR. So as you can see, the actual lineup is just insane for this, and it's able to pretty much deal with anything that it gets thrown at. Now, if you get fully upted, yes, there's a problem with penetration against a few vehicles. The American heavies, like the T-32s, can be very, very strong, but I only saw them maybe once. Most of the matchmaking was 6-7 to 5-7 or 7-0 to 6-0, and generally we were able to deal with most of the targets that we ended up running into. I even got a nuke in one of the games, and I got close to a nuke in 2 of the other ones, showing how very much this vehicle was doing really, really good for us. Now, the final stats as well in the T-34-85 STP are shocking. 14 battles, 14 wins, so 100% win rate, 52 ground kills, 11 deaths. So I was dying in the majority of the time that I was playing this thing, but because of the lineup behind me, I was able to play hyper-aggressive, get in, use that stabilizer, knock out a ton of vehicles, and then move on from there. And playing 14 games and winning them all in a row with the STP should already tell you how good this vehicle was. It was the king of the mediums, and it absolutely crushed the light tanks. Its general issues are very small, and also at the same time can be sorted out by the rest of the vehicles in your lineup. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.